And Steph wanted us to share and wanted you to know that she's passionate about helping students to find their voice and ensuring that all students get an equitable and successful educational experience. She considers herself a transformational leader who believes in fostering equitable conditions in which social, emotional learning, and student achievement can grow. So I'm really excited to be working with these three young, up-and-coming, and dynamic leaders as we continue to do the work on behalf of all students in 622. And then I'd like to invite Assistant Superintendent Troy Miller to introduce our next leader that's joining us. Thank you.
Yes. Can you hear me? It is my privilege to introduce to you the new Webster Elementary principal, Heidi George. Heidi comes to us from St. Paul. She's currently wrapping up at Four Seasons Elementary School. She has 10 years of administrative experience, so a broad range of experiences there. She's got a background in social emotional learning, restorative practices. A lot of that comes from her background in her counseling background and some of her training and experiences there. She is focused on building a positive culture and climate through strong relationships. She's committed to educational equity. She is warm and friendly. She has 4 children. She likes to run and travel, and she is here with her mother. So she is taking off tomorrow. So I'd like to invite her out. All right, so welcome if you want to head up and say a few words.
Hi, I'm just so happy to be here. I look forward to meeting all of you more. I can't tell you the warm welcome. It's only been a few days, but the warm welcome that I've had from every person who I've met in District 622. And I just really look forward to serving the students, families, staff, and community of LC Webster. I got a chance to chat with Nancy before the meeting started, and she shared with me about her 3 kids going to, had attended Webster, and her husband painted the mural in the cafeteria, so I got to get a little background information on that. So thank you, and I look forward to meeting all of you more.
Okay, thank you all for coming and introducing yourselves. Congratulations on your new roles, and thank you for serving 622.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the summer.
And then our next report will be our annual QComp report shared by our Human Resources Director, Julie Coffey.
Okay, thank you. Where is this? Okay. So tonight, we are required under by MDE to give an annual report each year of our QCamp program. So tonight is that report. We're going to go over the background and the process we use to create the report, the key findings, some directives from MDE that we received this year, and then changes coming forward in the 1920 school year. So MDE requires each QComp district to complete an annual review of its program to provide a comparison of what was actually implemented with what was planned, to assess the impact of the system on meeting its goals, and as a tool for gathering data on the program. In order to complete the annual report, data on our QComp program is compiled. This data provides a detailed picture of what is and is not working with the program. Part of our data is compiled through site review teams. Our site review rotates schools every year. This year, per MDE guidance, we had 4 schools that were reviewed. Richardson reviewed Webster, staff at CASA reviewed Eagle Point, Skyview Middle reviewed John Glenn, and staff at North reviewed Tarleton. The site review team is made up of at least 2 teachers and 1 administrator. They do receive training on how the site review works. So as part of the review, this team interviews teachers and administrators at the school in which they visit, and they review QComp documents in the building. The team then creates a report for each site and data from all of these reports is compiled into the annual report. Feedback is also provided from our ASDC, the Advisory Staff Development Committee. So key findings from the report. We found this year that student learning goals had improved. Changes had been made to the process and format for writing learning goals, and the teachers feel that these were now easier to write. So that was a benefit of the QComp annual review from last year. Teachers continue to benefit from alignment in professional learning. Teachers were able to make changes in their instruction based on learning and professional development sessions at the district site or as part of their collaborative teams. Excuse me, again, another benefit in our key finding. Some things we found that we need to work on. Secondary leadership structures were getting limited results. And we'll be making changes to the structure for next year, and I'll get into that at the end. Hold on, I'm gonna grab my water. And then the other key finding was that documentation of our collaborative teamwork was too burdensome. We're still digging into this a little bit more to find out kind of what that means and get specifics. But it appears as though there might be a lack of understanding of why the paperwork is required. And I think anytime there's not an understanding of the why behind a process, it feels burdensome and it feels like a lot of work. So we're going to do some more digging to figure out exactly what that is and work to make that better for teachers. Excuse me. So not part of our annual report, but we did receive a notice from MDE in spring of 2018 that our rubrics for teacher evaluation and QComp needed to be the same. So we used the 5D plus for our teacher evaluation, and our QComp rubric did not align with the 5D plus. MDE required that our teacher evaluation and our QComp rubric align to Minnesota professional teaching standards. Under this new plan that we've created, so we got a group of teachers and administrators together. We've met several times over the course of this school year, and we created a new plan that will be implemented in 1920. So under this new plan, we have one evaluation tool and process which meets both the teacher development and evaluation and the QComp plans. So in terms of our new teacher observation plan, the teacher growth and development and evaluation is our 5D plus plan. All teachers create an individual growth and development plan that consists of 3 to 5 goals. Administrators evaluate teachers then using the 5D plus. In addition, there's a peer review process in which teachers submit a goal as part of their individual growth and development plan that identifies a specific strand of the 5D plus. Teachers have 2 peer review cycles per year, and then career ladder teachers are peer reviewers. And this is part of our QComp program. So peer review has 3 parts: planning, a planning meeting, an observation or project, and a reflection meeting. So the career ladder peer review teachers will go in and observe teachers as part of this process. So licensed staff who do not have direct instruction can do an alternative project in lieu of an observation. For example, they might, special education teacher, they might, as part of their project, observe them leading an IEP meeting. A teacher might also choose to do some type of action research project as well in lieu of observation. So implications for 1819. We talked that as a result of the feedback from the QComp report, our secondary, we have curriculum chairs, we have department chairs, and then we have our ASDC at secondary. Those 3 positions will not exist next year. We've created a new position called a building instructional leader that will replace those. And that will be at the secondary level. This new position of building instructional leader will allow better alignment between district and site work and create alignment of goals within the teaching and learning department. And that is something that we did work quite carefully with the union on and with our teachers. We got a lot of feedback. It's a position that'll be implemented for next year. We are building in various cycles of feedback throughout the year to see if it's working the way it's intended to. We'll be tweaking that and making changes then throughout the year as necessary for this new position. Again, I talked about that new observation plan that's required by MDE. That will be implemented next year as well. Again, we worked closely with our QComp governance board, teachers and administrators in rolling that out. And training will be provided in August. And then we need to revisit the documentation of our collaborative teamwork as evidenced in the QComp annual report. Again, we're going to look at why teachers feel this is burdensome and work on ways to alleviate the issues. Any questions?
So for 3 positions that are ending, are we going to have a building instructor at each high school, or is it just one person that will oversee?
So there are a number, there is, and I'm not going to remember off the top of my head, it's 12 at the high school and middle school. And again, this is just the secondary piece, not elementary.
Okay.
8 at middle, 12 at high school.
Okay.
Thank you.
Julie, it's unusual to have HR up here talking about this.
Yes.
And so I'm not going to pick on you. I'm going to throw it more probably towards Troy. But in the past, QComp was always a 3-legged stool, so to speak, administration, teachers, and us, having to collaborate. So with the new plan that Julie shared that go into effect, am I interpreting that we're no longer going to have individual site goals? And I mean measurable goals. So like, you know how we used to always have to put the percent of students that are going to do this and the percent of students. So am I hearing or interpreting that now the new state standards are determining this QComp piece? Did I?
That piece will not change. Again,
Okay.
we're still waiting for some of that information is through our plan, as we get our information from our MCA results. So that part of it's still changing. Again, the whole design is, and that collaborative piece is still there.
Okay.
But those are still requirements from MDE through that process.
So is our intent tonight to acknowledge that we have an evolving plan and that we're massaging some of our key players here? Is that the intent? So we're probably going to hear more about this as the year goes on.
Yeah,
And
Yeah, we're making some changes. We've been collaborative. We've been working with the union and principals and staff leaders as well, just trying to improve things as we get feedback. This is an ongoing process, and we're, as Julie had mentioned, we're going to keep monitoring and adjusting and providing that feedback as well. So
Okay.
we're just trying to keep improving the system and how it can work for kids and for our staff, and we'll keep you updated on that as well.
And
Yeah,
Julie, one thing from you, I noticed on the secondary handout that we got, it looks like a big, huge percent of teachers actively participate and are awarded the monetary value. And is it possible to share an example of how somebody wouldn't get that? I mean, I was just curious if not, if you don't know that, that's okay.
Yeah, I do have it here. So there's 3 pieces. So there's the PLC work, the collaborative teams that teachers are required to participate in. There's a student learning goal, and then there's a school-wide goal. So if someone didn't participate in all aspects of the PLC, we have the QComp days that are included into that, built into our calendar. So if someone didn't participate in one of those, that would lessen the amount of money they would receive. Or if their student learning goal was not met, that could also decrease their compensation.
I was curious about the new rubric you said that was created. Who created it?
So the rubric itself is the 5D plus, and that's a evaluation tool that the district has used for a number of years. And I'm trying to think back to specifically what rubric. So we didn't create a new, the QComp rubric was one piece that was created through QComp, and then we had our teacher evaluation. So part of what MDE said we had to do was align those two. And we kept with the 5D, we just made some changes to the process, I guess, in terms of how that's used so that it fits within QComp. So So we had kind of two standalone pieces. We had teacher evaluation and QComp, and we aligned those so that they work well together, which actually created a little bit more of a seamless process for teachers, and made, I think, a little bit more sense, because everything was aligned then in terms of what their evaluation tool looked like and how it worked.
And what did you mean by the second leadership structure getting limited results?
So that's where right now we have curriculum chairs, we have department chairs, and we have the ASDC. And those three groups work a little bit autonomously. And in order to better align our professional development, we have eliminated those three and created a building instructional leader that will take on pieces of all three of those, and just allow, again, better alignment across, up and down and across the system.
I was just curious, what % of our teachers participate in QComp and complete the necessary components of it?
100%.
Awesome. All of them are.
Julie, as far as the paperwork being burdensome, why is that? In other words, that you're just recording what the collaboration is? Is it more involved than that, or?
It is more involved in that. I'm gonna look to try to see if he has any more specifics.
No, again, just trying to not be, doing that busy work versus, everyone wants to be being efficient and doing work that impacts learning. So that's just been feedback over time, is trying to simplify the forms and all the documentation and all of those things. So that's been the feedback over and over, is how do we continue to meet the MDE requirements, but also trying to streamline so we're not wasting a lot of time just filling out stuff versus having impact on kids and doing that learning work together. And it's getting better, and those are the things we keep talking about each year and trying to collaborate on and make it a little more easier and more efficient.
Okay.
All right, anything else? Thank you, Julie. Next, we have the community education, Terry Johnson.
Good evening.
Cheryl.
Yes, good evening tonight. We are pleased to be here with another focus on an area of community education, which is our adult and senior programs. And I am really delighted to introduce Cheryl Geisbers, who many of you may have met her over time. She's actually been in our district for 25 years in a variety of roles, starting off as an instructor in these adult programs, and then moving into the programming roles from there. So over time, she's just kind of taken on more and more areas within this program area, and she just brings so much passion and just is always willing to go over and above. So it's my pleasure to turn it over to Cheryl. Thank you.
Well, Chair Yenner and members of the school board and the cabinet, thanks for having me come and speak tonight. Fasten your seatbelts. I'm going to take you on a jet ride, and it's going to be at 30,000 foot level as we look at all of adult programs, which, as we look at the mission of the school district here to develop and empower lifelong learners, this is what you do for the adults in our community. So I come actually to education from a non-education background. My background is in healthcare. And so I look at things just a little bit differently from healthcare. We speak in healthcare on continuums, and most continuums are linear. Mine, however, is not. So I like to blur lots of lines. So this is the continuum that I use, which is that optimal well-being of the community or optimal well-being of an individual is based on all of these components: intellectual, financial, physical, you name it all interacting with one another. And the biggest thing about this is that a change in any one of these situations will result in optimal wellness, or a change towards optimal wellness in the individual or the community. And so this is what I see community education's mission, is making changes in all of these areas for individuals. And this is how I evaluate the adult programs, and this is how I program for the adult programs, is trying to make changes for the good in all of these areas. A change for the bad will also impact, but we don't try to ever make changes for the bad. So here we go, adult programs. When we talk adult programs, we're talking about adult enrichment, adults with disabilities, which is a customized program for, that's for adults with cognitive developmental disabilities, and we call it Community Bridge. It's actually a consortium of 5 school districts, and we are the consortium office and the chair. We have community gardens, which you may or may not be aware of. We have the Meals on Wheels program, and we have the Gladstone 55 plus, which we also refer to as the senior program. So that's what you're gonna be viewing from afar. So adult enrichment, first of all, we're talking lots and lots of education. I try to have an educational piece in all aspects of community education. So that education along with socialization or finances or you name it, there's always that educational component. Lots of just classroom type of things where it's lectures. Then we'll also have the most popular are the experiential classes and activities that we have. We have them in our buildings. And the thing that everyone likes about these is they walk away with an item or something that they created or the skill to do something. And the biggest part of that is that skill so that they can recreate it in their own home or in their community or whatever. So that's what makes those classes so very popular. We take that experiential outside of our classrooms here in the district as well. So we go to everything local. So here we were at a glass blowing studio learning how to blow glass and shape molten glass. If you are not sure if you want a kayak, you can come to us and we'll take you out on the lake, teach you how to kayak, and then you can decide whether you want to invest in a kayak. So we do things out in our community. And then we also will take our community broader. We'll take the members broader in the community to learn things that are available around the state. And so some of those are just day trips, and some of those are long weekend trips where we've actually stayed overnight viewing activities. So that's the adult enrichment program. Then we have the adults with disabilities program. Basic same concept is education, socialization, recreation for adults, but here they are working or they are with their peers. So these are customized classes for people with cognitive disabilities. We bring in lots of different speakers and guest instructors. Likewise, we take them out into the community, and the thing with going into the community for them is to let them, as well as their family or their PCA workers or group home staff, know that things are available in the community. So like with the roller skating, I can rent out the roller rink, and I do rent out the roller rink. So that's an activity, but then they can go to the roller rink on their own, because now they know where it is, they know what roller skating is, and they can do it on their own. We have a lot of recreational activities for the adults with disabilities. We missed a great tournament this past Saturday. We had 85 adults and the best weather ever. We never have had good weather for the tournament, so there was no humidity. It was great. The picture on the right is from a T-ball tournament a couple years ago. And then just some of the other experiential classes that we have. And we have some of our folks with disabilities actually leading the classes. The young man who's doing the tie-dye there, he has started his own business, Dan the Man Tie-Dye, and he teaches every catalog a tie-dye class to his peers. Meals on Wheels. What can I say about Meals on Wheels other than this is how this district serves what we would say the most maybe marginalized of our clients that can't get out to other activities because they're homebound or from a financial reason. We bring them food, but we bring them a volunteer with a friendly smile and a greeting. Every day, a little bit of interaction, and the number one thing is like such a volunteer-driven program, and the volunteers love the program. So we had 142 volunteers. They put in roughly 3,500 hours last year. Those are last year's. I don't have this year's hours figured out on that yet. We served 193 clients, almost 20,000 meals. So a lot of meals going out, and it's all volunteers that are. We have Francine who does the heating of the meals in the kitchen. She manages the volunteers, but they do all the hard labor on it. Community gardens, we have 3 of them. They were originally established in 2011, and they were established to be an outdoor workshop to kind of assist in the, you didn't have to order bugs anymore from a supplier. You could go out to the garden and you could see some real bugs in the garden. Some of that still goes on. The trouble is our springs are cold and wet, and so the school students don't get out in the gardens as much as we had ever planned on them doing. They also provide families access to fresh, locally grown food that they're growing themselves, and it's just a great environment to be in. Besides growing food, there's been a couple Eagle projects that have occurred in the gardens, and those were, one was a North High School student, one was a Tartan. We have education in the gardens. We have had adult enrichment classes. We've worked with various school individual classrooms to do programs. The Adventure Connection program at the various sites do it. And now last year, Laura, the youth programs director, started the Roots and Sprouts program, which is an intergenerational garden. And that stuff all goes on during the school year and during the summer. We have a lot of gardeners who are learning how to garden, so we put together some educational, that's what's on the bottom right, is a how-to, lots and lots of how-tos on our garden website. And then every year we participate in the U of M's study on invasive species, where they are tracking to see as invasive species move across the country if they are coming to our neck of the woods or not. And so far we're doing pretty good here, at least in our community gardens they're not showing up. Harmony, besides having a garden, has the greenhouse as well, which is a partnership with Century College. And the students and Century staff put that greenhouse together. They literally, the students were out there measuring and marking, and it was the ESL students at Harmony that were working on that. Century runs the garden class. There isn't one this year, but there have in the past year been, or greenhouse class, excuse me, on teaching folks how to actually work in a greenhouse and hopefully feeding them into Century's horticulture program. And then the other educational piece that goes on at Harmony Garden is, if you have not had the opportunity to go out there, you need to go and just see the beautiful greens that you have never seen before, because a lot of these gardeners have brought in seeds from their home countries. They grow them, and then they do cooking classes and show us, who are not familiar with them, how they prepare this food in their home. And they have to speak entirely in English for that class, so it gives them a way to practice their English speaking skills. And then we have the Gladstone 55 Plus Center, which is the senior program. And we have lots and lots of activities that go on at Gladstone every day. There's something different going on every day, morning and afternoon, where folks can come together with people that have their same interests and have lots of good times and laughs. We have exercise classes so we can get at their wellness and keep them moving. And then we have 4 special events a year. And then this is the thing that we started this year, was really honing in on this Grandparent for a Day, which is our version of an intergenerational program. And it's real easy at Gladstone because we have the early childhood program right down the hall. So they come down to our exercise class, we go down and listen to them read. But then we put in some specific, let's do some activities together. So we brought in a couple of classrooms, and we baked bread one day, we made apple pies another day, and it was just getting everybody working together. This summer, the Summer Epic program, which is the upper elementary and middle school kids, they are coming, and they are going to, some of them are going to be learning wood carving from the wood carvers in the afternoon, and another group is coming, we've got them scheduled to come to play dominoes with the ladies to do some of that. And I could go on, but I just want to end with this video of Gladstone, because I think you need to hear about Gladstone from the participants at Gladstone itself.
It's a wonderful place to be. Good people, good activities. You could find anything, like even painting and other things that I haven't gotten into. And the camaraderie that's here.
The chance to learn and to get out and to do something. Gladstone has gotten to be quite a lovely senior center.
Well, it's a good place to meet other individuals, meet other people, and make new friends and learn, create more in your hobby and learn more about your hobby, because there's always people that seem to know a little more than you do.
We have a place here where we can be with the same kind of interests that the other people have, and so I think that we all help each other and our carving gets better.
We just appreciate being able to be in a nice, clean, well-lit place.
So we have been going strong since November of 14, and we get anywhere from 8 to 12 women every single Tuesday. We're really not playing for, who wins and who loses. We're there for sociability, for fun and laughter and snacks, and just a really great afternoon. The Gladstone facility or senior center offers so much at very, very, very reasonable rates, and they do special things for us. Like on Valentine's Day, the National Honor Society students from Tartan High School put on a lovely dance with a real band playing music, and they even dance with you if you'd like them to, and that's great fun.
I love people, so I just get around people as much as I can. And I love kids, grandkids, and great-grandkids, and I have 8 of those.
I took organ lessons, and one woman said to me, "I'm so glad I can come here." She said, "It's the only thing I do all week. I never even change out of my clothes." I said, "Oh, hon, you gotta get active, you gotta do things." She said, "I just live for this one thing a week." So see, they gotta know places like Gladstone.
Okay, and we've landed. So I'd love for you to, of course, ask me any questions, but feel free to visit at Gladstone anytime, and certainly drop into any adult enrichment, community bridge, Meals on Wheels programs. Yep.
For the Meals on Wheels program, is there still a big need to have drivers and meals delivered to seniors in the district? Like, are there people that we're not able to bring meals to because we don't have enough resources or enough volunteers?
We're always able to serve anybody who's interested. We just expand our routes currently. And if we would need to, we could create new routes. And I know originally we just had one route going into Oakdale because we only had a few people in Oakdale.
Okay.
And then as the need arose and we had more people, now we have 2 full routes that are going into Oakdale. So there's always a need for volunteers because our volunteers come and go as well, and they take time off, a lot of snowbirds. So we're forever more recruiting volunteers. But nobody is not being served, or that's a double negative, if they're, because of lack of volunteers, no.
Okay, great.
Cheryl, I have a grandchild who's going to be in the 4-year-old program at Gladstone this fall. So how is that building set up? In other words, he's going to be there Tuesdays and Thursdays, and so is that a separate wing, and you're in a different area with your adult programming? Or?
Right. We have a shared entranceway, and then the first wing, when you come in the main entrance off of Manton Street, that first wing is the senior program. And then if you go down the hallway, that's where the early childhood office is, and then that wing is all of the early childhood classrooms.
Oh, okay. And
so they only interact with each other when it's planned.
Oh, okay. And you said there's a couple times a year or something that they...
Yeah, we're hoping to, keep expanding the numbers. This year we were just giving it a shot. The big thing is with the seniors is trying to get them to give up their opportunity, because like the knitters were the ones who made the apple pies, and so they're like, "You mean we can't knit today?" I was like, "No, you're gonna make apple pies today." So there's some of that. So we're trying to get some more planned ones in. And those grandparent for the day opportunities are open to the public as well. We advertised it as grandparent to the day, And anybody from the community that wanted to come in as well and participate in that class could have done that. We didn't get anybody from the community, it was only our own seniors that did that.
Cheryl, it's great to see you. And I've been on the board a long time and I've been in all the buildings, but my goal this past year was to try to see a senior program since I turned to that 60 decade. And I had a grandchild, so I wanted to attend something in early childhood. So I accomplished both of those. And I think I ran into you in the hallway afterwards. At the one senior event, it was outstanding, but there wasn't a colored person in the room, or a person of color. And I thought that was so shocking, yet when you go to the elementary or the early childhood, they're all children of color or a blend. And so I truly like the idea of blending them, because I think sometimes neither one will be able to see the other's color, and there'll be just so much more acceptance. So I just really like that, because I happen to ask, where have all of our people, our seniors that aren't white? The room was all white. And so, and I think that's one of my goals or hopes, is that somehow are those other races or ethnicities just not hearing about it, they just don't have access to it. I'm hoping that with some of our programs we're starting, the Hmong parent group and all of that, that we can maybe let parents know that if they have a grandparent or something, to kind of come and join that, because I think it'd be great if we could see that increase in visibility for them.
Yes, thank you. I agree with that, and the other thing that's strongly missing from Gladstone is a lot of men, except for the wood carvers. Woodcarvers, there's only 2 women, but I've been working, and all of Community Ed has been working with our cultural liaisons, I can never say that word, to see how we can get that interaction going. I've asked that question a lot. It turns out that, like in particular with the Hmong community, I've been talking with Sam, but then also with someone from an adult daycare, that they're, well, first of all, not quite as many of them. They tend to stay in their home, and the family is more at home, where we tend to have our seniors either by themselves or in facilities or something. So there's some of that going on. But also they're liking to be by themselves, because they've come over. This is not comfortable for them. Our education system is not comfortable for them. They're used to being in their homes. So I'm working with a Hmong daycare center, which is actually not very far, and it's an adult daycare center. Not very far, it's just over by the Cub Foods. And to see, what I'm hoping to do is get our seniors that knit to go to them, and then them to come in and do their needlework at one of our locations, if I have to figure out the busing piece of that. But so trying to slowly work some of these things in, whether or not they'll actually routinely, I think we might be one generation away before we'll start to see lots of them coming to our facility. But, that is a goal of mine too. Thank you.
Are there fees for the Gladstone 55 plus and for the Community Bridge program?
There are fees for Community Bridge, is fee-based, and those senior programs, the ones that are regularly scheduled, like the bingos and 500s, hand and foot, those do not have fees. The only thing that we are providing for them, however, is that space. So if they're bringing all of their own snacks in, we don't make coffee or anything, so they are physically in our building, and there is no fees for that. But any special events, the cost has to be covered by the fees that are brought in. Community Bridge, those activities are also fee-based, but and we try to keep them as low as possible, because that population has very limited amount of money. I've got some grant money that I kind of play with so I'm making sure I'm always balancing the bottom line on that as much as possible for those activities.
And the other question I had was with regards to the community gardens. Are those the ones that we operate or run? Are they all on school district property, or do we have any partnerships with other organizations where we run a garden on their property.
No, they're all on district. So there's one at Cowan that was established in 2011, and it's next to the gym over at Cowan. There's one at Harmony, and that is right outside their window. And then there's one at Carver, which is directly behind the school.
Okay.
So they're all on our grounds.
Cheryl, thanks very much for
Thank you.
presenting. It was great. I'm glad we do all that work in the district. Thank you for leading it.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have from the business office, Randy with the legislative update.
Just a kind of an overview of what transpired at this past year's legislative session for the next 2 funding years. We feel fortunate that we fell somewhere between the Senate and the House's proposals, which we think is a good place to be. And just kind of the overview at the 30,000-foot level is that includes 2% increase each year on the funding formula, which means $126 the first year and $129 the second year. This represents about $1.5 million in additional state aid per year on the funding formula for our district. Special education, I know there was a lot of discussion on that, and we do have the new formula that came out in 2016. There was a lot of work, there was a lot of discussion. There were some discussions about changing it, etc., but at this point in time, there was not any major overhaul of that funding formula, but it did result in some additional aid called cross-subsidy reduction aid. And so I think they basically, for this 2 years, they did see that the new formula was creating an increase in cross-subsidy, and so they tried to deal with that part of the formula by establishing this funding. I'm confident. I belong on a task force, so I think hopefully in the next biennium there'll be enough information that we can take a look at making major modifications in the new funding formula. Voluntary pre-K grant was extended for an additional 2 years. As Terry and I have discussed, we don't know what that's going to look like at this point for our district, and so we would hope it would kind of hold us harmless. But again, as with MDE, they keep you guessing, so we'll kind of see, and we'll know, I believe, hopefully in a month. So anyway, we're hopeful that we will continue to get the same type of funding that we have in the past, but that remains to be seen here, given MDE guidance. The one new type of aid was, there were a lot of discussions about school safety, et cetera, and of course, remember, we have the Safe Schools levy that we do, which provides about $425,000 a year to our district. Well, they came up with this school safety supplemental aid, which is a one-time type of aid, which will result in about $34 per pupil unit. And so ultimately these dollars will be used. We haven't seen any guidance yet, but it looks like, according to legislation, it will be handled very similar to what the Safe Schools guidance is. And so for the next couple of years, we'll get about $17 aid per pupil unit. So we're looking forward to that, because as we do our new building projects, et cetera, or our current buildings, that aid will come in handy. So with that, I'll take any questions.
2 questions here, Randy. Under that special education, we get money from the federal government, but this is going to be state money.
Yes.
And is it going to just be used for debt reduction, or will you, for special education, or how do you plan on using it?
Well, I think what will end up happening is it will reduce our cross subsidy. Right now, we receive about $2.3 million from the federal government, and we have about 16 million, somewhere between 15 and 16 million in state aid, but we still have a cross subsidy of about $12 million. And so these dollars will come in, and it will help us reduce that cross subsidy. So technically it wouldn't be earmarked for any particular special ed program. It would be just to reduce the cost of special education services that we provide in order to reduce that $12 million cross-subsidy that we have.
Those are gonna have a separate fund?
It's a separate aid, so
Okay.
yeah, it's gonna come in to help, offset some of the costs of special education.
But it's not at a cost of anticipating a reduction in either our current
No.
state or okay.
Correct.
And the last question I had, under that school safety,
Yep.
is it really about 30 million?
For the whole district, for all the districts in Minnesota, so for
Oh,
us,
for the whole districts in Minnesota?
yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
I
So
got
for us,
excited.
it's about 200,000 a year.
And so, when you're talking about building and renovations and stuff, give me an example of how we could potentially use those dollars towards that.
We could use them for, and we have used, so some initiatives that we've done this year, of course, was our video cameras, changing up our video cameras. It's used to pay for our receptionists at the buildings, at the elementary schools. It's also used to pay for our police liaisons at the buildings.
So, because I was gonna ask if we could get more counselors, but you have been using it for staff, so.
Yeah, it can be used for a number of different things that relate to school safety. So very similar, like I said, to the Safe Schools
Okay.
initiative.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't we used that Safe Schools levy money mostly for the video cameras and the updating of our tech support of the building entrances and all that stuff?
Yes, that's where our initiative over the last 2 years has went. We've spent over half a million dollars in updates, and that was also part of our promise to the stakeholders when our operating referendum passed. So yeah, and we continue to look at ways. I know we're looking at updating our radios too in the buildings, et cetera. So it's we've had some really good initiatives over the last 2 years.
But it really goes a lot more to that than it does to staff
Yeah.
support, right?
A combination
Yeah.
thereof, yep.
And the upgrades to the cameras have been just tremendous.
Oh, yeah.
So we've had a lot of feedback, because we used to have a lot of those old cameras, but now we always get feedback. We can actually see, and we can zoom in, and so it's been outstanding help on those levels too.
Yeah, so we've went all digital now. We've increased our capacity to to record. Again, it's not only helped with our security, it's also helped with kids' whereabouts and and things that occur during any given day with behavior, et cetera.
So does the Safe Schools levy, does that also go to our transportation services for cameras in our buses and stuff too then?
Yes, so when BJ came on board, we needed to update. He's done a marvelous job. So we've done GPSs on our buses. We've done modernized cameras on our buses. So that's been, part of this initiative too. Thank you for bringing that up, because that's been huge. So, and he's been a real spearhead on that. So we appreciate that.
I just wanted to say that, just to remind people that the House came in at 0.5%. That's what they wanted to give the schools. So thank you, Governor Walz, for going to bat for the schools, because without that, we would not be at 2%. He wanted, what was it, 4?
It was 3 and 2. So I think 3% the first year, 2% the second year.
Right.
Yeah, at least on the funding formula.
A lot of competition for those dollars.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Next, we have Troy with review of policies.
Yeah. So tonight we have the annual review of policies by statute. So we currently have 9 of those that we look at each year. Again, we have a very thorough process as we go through these annual review of these policies through cabinet, through our legal counsel, and anyone that's specifically tied to these policies. And in summary, we have 6 of the 9 that we are not looking to make any recommendations on. However, we do have 3 policies that we'd like to bring to the August 6th work session. as we look at some of the recommendations to bring forward and get your feedback at that time. Those three policies are policy 714, the fund balance, which came from a board member to look at that policy. Policy 410, family and medical leave. Again, we're proposing revisions regarding the dissemination of the policy. And similar to that, in policy 413, which is harassment and violence, again, looking at proposing the dissemination of that policy and just trying to get more up to date with how those are posted or using our website with those. So in general, again, a lot of time spent on these 6 of 9 that we've all looked at that we don't have any recommendations on. We would love to have further conversations in August at our work session. So that would be our first informal reading at that time. Yep.
So we'll do all of them in August, even the ones you're not attending?
No, we have no action. Correct. Any questions?
Okay. All right, thanks, Troy. So at the next study session, we'll do the 3 revisions.
Correct, and there's more coming, and Kim's getting us organized, so we're gonna have a lot of fun with policies in August, and so she was working hard again today, and so we'll bring all of that forward, and we'll keep working on those and get up to speed again as we have some great work with our policies.
Thank you. Next, we have recognition of retirees. Again, Troy.
Yes, so it is my privilege tonight to honor our retirees of the 2018-19 school year. Our board has sent a card to these individuals, and I'm just honored and privileged to recognize them this evening on behalf of our entire district, our students, our families, our staff. I feel we have the best staff anywhere, and we just are so fortunate to have great people and excited for them to be taking the next step in their journey. And tonight I'm going to read the names of our retirees and the last position held. And again, just want to wish them well and appreciate everything that they've done for our students and families here. So with that, I'm going to read the names and their last positions. So Dennis Andruski, social studies teacher at Tartan. Sue Babcock, intervention teacher at Carver. Denise Cayley, special education teacher at Next Step. Vicki Conlin, food service Oakdale. James Demko, full-time driver, custodian at the bus garage. Jennifer Everson, special ed para Weaver. Deborah Fisher, art teacher John Glenn. Linda Gruffman, special ed para Tartan. Diane Hansen, third grade teacher at Castle. Tracy Hansen-Pelton, music choir teacher, Tartan and Skyview Middle. Paul Hazard, math teacher, North. Pamela Helston, multiple needs teacher, John Glenn. Luann Henderson, music choir teacher at Carver. June House, multiple needs teacher at John Glenn. Annette Ilka, kindergarten teacher at Oakdale. Carolyn Jones, second grade teacher at Cowan. Meg Kelly, second grade teacher at Skyview Elementary. Julie Kelly, building EA at Richardson. Rob Keene, industrial tech teacher, North. Daniel Kinney, full-time custodian at North. Ed Knutson Smizak, tax support specialist at the DEC. Dale Langloy, social studies, Skyview Middle. Patricia Lund, ECFE teacher at Gladstone. Joni Machuzik, building EA at Weaver. Mary Malzarek, business teacher, avid teacher at North. Susan Moore, special ed para at Cowan. Sue Okaneski, fourth grade teacher at Eagle Point. Jean Olinger, social studies teacher at Maplewood. Bonnie Patraz, EC screener, Beaver Lake. Camille Sampers, occupational therapist, district-wide. Linda Semler, ECSE teacher at Beaver Lake. Joyce Stabler, inclusion adventure connection para. Margaret Walls, Food Service Manager North. Nancy Winan, Assistant Principal at Tartan. Teresa Wheeler, FANS Special Ed Teacher at John Glenn. And Shar Winters, Students Systems Secretary at North High. So again, just want to congratulate all of these folks. Again, I just think we have the best staff, and I wish them all the best on behalf of our district.
Okay, thanks again, Troy, and we, as a board, of course, wish them well too in the retirement. Thank you for reading off their names, and thank you for all the work they've done for the district too. Next, we have revision to Student Transportation Policy 709, and again, Troy.
Yes, brought this to the informal reading on June 11th to our study session. Again, this policy has gone through our vetting process and through legal counsel, and this would be our first formal reading tonight. And again, just walking you through those proposed changes and some of the reasons behind it. Wanted to change the consequences laid out in the current policy just to be more aligned with our building code of conduct and procedures that we have in place. In the current policy, students are kicked off of the bus for 3 days after a second offense. And we know that many of our families cannot drive students to school, and some of those incidents have been minor offenses. And we're continuing to, with this change, to continue to hold students accountable, to have high expectations, but to again be more aligned with the work that we're doing in our buildings, working with our principals and behavior teams, really working on changing behaviors, teaching behaviors, the restorative practices. We have a whole plan as we're working with our drivers in the bus garage and our principals to continue to ramp up that work and to really get, obviously safe behavior on buses and work together with that. So again, those are some of the main reasons behind the changes, and again, looking for any feedback or questions that you may have regarding those.
Troy, I think what I really can embrace about this policy is that it does a couple things. It acknowledges that students, like you said, have to be accountable, but also by the same token, it's an opportunity for adults to learn about student behaviors and what we think might not, what could have been something tragic in an era when we were young is not so much anymore. And this looks like it's a real crossbreed between the bus drivers, staff, and administration. I really, I could really wrap my arms around that, and I really applaud the work that went into it. I know it had to be tough, very tough conversations though, because not only it's dealing with so many different entities, so, and I hope it's a works in progress. I hope that if we find something isn't working, you bring it back to us, if there's a piece there that families or bus drivers are struggling with, or even staff, that we're not suckered into something. So I like it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Troy. Next, we have our action items, and from the business office, we have acknowledgement of contributions, and Nancy is going to do that for us.
Minnesota Statute 123B.02 permits school boards to receive, for the benefit of the district, bequests, donations, or gifts for any proper purpose, and apply the same to the purpose designated. In that behalf, the board may act as trustee of any trust created for the benefit of the district and for the benefit of pupils thereof. Therefore, the district Director of Business Services recommends the following resolution. Be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District 622 that the school board accept with appreciation the following contributions and permit their use as designated by the donors. So we have a shorter list tonight. First is Ronnie Dornfield, donated $232.86 for Meals on Wheels. Thaddeus Reed, a Hoyer lift for John Glenn Multiple Needs Program. Anonymous, $310 for the Castle Grade 5 Audubon Scholarships. Lolita Cox, school supplies for Castle Elementary. Gail Dworak, $100 for the Webster Choir Program. The Kaisers, $600 for Cowan lunch accounts. And finally, Anonymous, $2,000 for the North High Student in Need account. So our total fiscal year 2018-2019 monetary contributions are $90,030.17. I'd like to make a motion that we accept that with appreciation.
Thank you. So we have a motion from Nancy. Can I get a second? Second by Hunt. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed say nay. So we have the approval of the acknowledgement of contributions. Thanks. Thank you, Nancy. Yes.
I was just curious, for the Castle Grade 5 Audubon scholarships, does anybody know, is that to help pay for the cost of a field trip, or?
That's Audubon.
Okay. Thank you.
Right? Okay. All right, next we have from the business office, Randy with District 916 Long-Term Facility Maintenance, Health and Safety.
Greetings, board members, Chair Yenner, cabinet members. We've got a number of things here on the agenda, so I'll try to, keep things moving, et cetera. And after each one, if you have questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. So this is something that we do annually as a member of the Northeast Metro Intermediate District 916. And so what you have before you is their request to their member districts for health and safety / long-term facilities maintenance pay-as-you-go money. They're asking, and this in no way, shape, or form impacts what we can levy, et cetera. It just is in addition. So it does become part of our levy requests that we do on an annual basis, which we will be starting here again for 2021 here in July, et cetera. So anyway, their request from their member districts is a total of $144,700. And out of the 14 districts, our share here, and they go by number of students involved in programming, and then also by your tax base. And our share of that $144,700 would be $25,023.61. With that, I'll take any questions, and I know that Michelle has a nice long resolution to to read.
All right, thanks. I will read the resolution. Be resolved by the School Board of Independent School District number 622, State of Minnesota as follows. Number 1, the School Board of Northeast Metropolitan Intermediate School District number 916 has approved a long-term facility maintenance budget for its facilities for the 2020-2021 school year pay 2020 levy in the amount of $144,700. The various components of this program budget are attached as Exhibit A hereto and are incorporated herein by reference. Said budget is hereby approved. Number 2, Minnesota Statute Section 123B.595, Subdivision 3, as amended, provides that if an intermediate school district's budget is approved by the school boards of each of the intermediate school district members' school district, each member district may include its proportionate share of the costs of the intermediate school district program in its long-term facility maintenance revenue application. Number 3, the proportionate share of the costs of the intermediate school district's long-term facility maintenance program for each member school district to be included in its application shall be determined by utilizing a blended rate where half of the rate is determined by multiplying the total cost of the intermediate school district long-term facility maintenance times the ratio of the member school district's net tax capacity to the total net tax capacity of the intermediate school district, and half of the rate is determined by multiplying the total cost of the intermediate school district's long-term facility maintenance times the ratio of ADM utilization by district to the total ADM utilization. The inclusion of this proportionate share in the district's long-term facility maintenance revenue application for fiscal year 2021 is hereby approved, subject to approval by the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Education. Number 4, upon receipt of the proportionate share of long-term facility maintenance revenue attributable to the intermediate school district program, the district shall promptly pay to the intermediate school district the applicable aid or levy proceeds. Okay, so with that, we need a motion and a second for approval. Moved by Livingston, second by Anderson. All in favor say aye. Aye. And all opposed say nay. So the resolution passes for the 916 long-term facility maintenance. Thanks, Randy. And Randy, you're up again for 2019-2020 budget approval.
I know we discussed this at our June work session, and for public consumption here, I'm just going to quickly go over our overall budget for 2020-2021. First of all, I'd like to thank you folks. Again, this is a long culminating process which goes for approval today. We started, remember, in last fall, working through some different things. So I want to thank you guys for your input and your patience, as well as the cabinet members. And then I'd like to thank my staff, Janet Doman, our finance manager, Travis Byrne, who's our accounting coordinator, and Joe McCabe and Kim. All been instrumental in putting this all together. It's a real culminating process. I'd also like to thank Terry, Jody Schmidt in special ed, our special ed accountant, and Paula Polkamp. All of them have worked really hard to present this budget for you tonight. So without further ado, I'll just try to quickly kind of go through these, so you'll have to bear with me. The district basically, as of now, has 9 funds as shown in front of you. The largest, which is the general fund, that's what funds our educational program. It's the largest budget in the district. It's what we do. We educate kids. The other funds actually support that activity of educating students. And so our primary fund here is the general fund. We have updated enrollment projections, and I'll go over that in a second. I have incorporated the new financials that the legislators approved, so that's included in here. Again, we've adjusted salaries to reflect step movement, additional staff or retirements, and a cost of living increase. And as you can see, we've updated necessary expenses where necessary, but as for all practical purposes, all other expenditures remain flat from the current year. And again, as always, we try to align our financial budget with our strategic plan. And so as we look at initiatives again for 2021, we'll do budget revisions where necessary. Okay. As you can see here, our actual and projected enrollment for the public's viewing. We discussed this before. We had a nice increase in 17-18. It was the first increase we've had in a number of years for our enrollment. We did have a decrease of this past year of about almost 1%, but we're looking to next year to remain flat. And then as you can see in the next couple years after that, we're remaining somewhat flat with a slight increase. Again, this does not take into consideration, it looks at birth rates in our district, but as we do our construction projects and as development occurs, we have not factored that in as of yet because we don't have any trend data, and some of those developments haven't yet been finalized. So when we look at the general fund, the revenue for next year is projected to be about $149 million with expenditures of close to that, $149 million. So we're looking at the change of revenues over, I should say projected revenues over projected expenditures, almost being a balanced budget, but we're looking at increasing fund balance by about $50,000. We're looking at a projected ending fund balance then at this time of about $29 million. And that's both unassigned and restricted amounts, as you'll see in a second here. Again, of those revenues and expenditures, about 2.6 million or 2.7 million will go toward our long-term facilities program. And we have about $3 million that will be, this is our pay-as-you-go money that will be put into Fund 6 for projects that are spending or have budgets for more than $2 million. So a lot of those will be seed money for our new projects at Skyview, John Glenn, and Carver. So when you look at how our monies are broken down, that's in front of you here for the 149. As you can see, state revenue is our largest contributor. This kind of shows you the percentage breakdown. We receive about 76% in state revenue. The other big next category is property taxes. Our stakeholders have been very, very supportive of our educational exploits here in the district and activities, and again, through operating referendums, and again, we really appreciate their support and approval of our building bonds that were approved here this past May. So we really appreciate that, and I think it will help with promoting excellent education in our district in the near future. So when we take a look at expenditures, you can see that salaries and wages and employee benefits, we're in the people business, and you can see those are our two largest categories. Again, about $149 million worth of expenditures. Again, when you look at employee benefits and salaries and wages, that comprises about 80% of our budget, which is not surprising since, like I said, we are in the business of educating students. So when you look at our fund balance that's projected for 1920, you can kind of see our unassigned fund balance is about 17 million. That represents about 11.5% of our expenditures. The rest of the fund balances are restricted or reserved for particular purposes, and you can kind of see our safe schools right now is about, projected to be about $993,000. These have the dollars that, those additional dollars that the state has appropriated for us. So we still haven't. We'll probably decide on some initiatives that will be added to the 1920 budget, but at this time, that's where we're projected to land. Again, when you take a look at revenues and expenditures and the fund balance over time, again, if you were to look back 2 years prior to this, our fund balance was less than $3 million totally. And so you can see the things that have happened over the course of time. And at the moment, I consider ourselves pretty financially stable and doing some really great work for kids. Quickly with food service, you will be approving an increase in food service prices. That is incorporated into this budget. Again, it comes through the federal calculator that mandates these increases. And so we'll talk about that a little later, but I did incorporate pending approval of the increase in the lunch prices and the breakfast prices into the budget. Paula Polkamp does an amazing job supervising this program. She's tremendous, with the budget and proactive, as you'll see. She's also being tremendously involved in the construction projects at Richardson and Castle as they're getting new layouts in their food service and new equipment, et cetera. So she's really a Jill of all trades around there, and we really appreciate her and Marie, the coordinators, and all the employees. Great work that they do to support our kids. So we almost here too have a balanced budget. As you can see, about $7 million in revenues. Very similar in expenditures. We're looking at revenues over expenditures projected by about 100,000. Ending fund balance almost 1.4 million. And so when you take a look at where our actual revenues come from, it's no surprise. We are over 50% free and reduced. And so 66% of our funding, our revenues, come from the federal government. School meals account for almost 30%, 29%. These are our paid meals. And then state supplemented revenue, again, is about 5%. When you take a look visually at expenditures, again, our highest category, 54%, is supplies and materials. And this is not unusual here because we're purchasing food, preparing it for our students. And then, of course, if you look at our salaries and benefits, it's about 40% of our budget. When you take a look at our fund balances and revenues and expenditures over time. Paula's done a very nice job of keeping stable here. Our fund balance is projected to be about 1.4, but in the next budget revision, we will be doing a revision of that because we will be probably expending for Castle and Richardson probably in the neighborhood of between 300,000 and 400,000 of her fund balance will be going towards renovations there. And keep in mind that we're adding one of our initiatives in our business services is recyclable or green. And so both those kitchens will have a dish room. And so we will be doing utensils and washing. And so there will be a dishwashing machine in both kitchens. And we will be spending dollars to have reusable flatware and also plates, etc. Terry does a nice job with her staff, and Jeannie, her assistant, with the community ed budget. Again, if you take a look at how we're funded, most of the aid is derived from the 2015 census data. Again, we're taking a look at revenues of about 9.7 million, expenditures about 10 million. So there is a planned spend down, as we discussed at our work session, of almost $400,000. So that has been planned out with different programming that Terry and her staff are going to implement and put in place. The ending fund balance is projected to be about 2.8 million. When you take a look at the revenue, again, not surprising that about 53% comes from the state. When you take a look at local revenue, 30%, that comes from classroom fees, et cetera. So that's not surprising either. So those are the two highest categories of revenue sources. Again, expenditure-wise, you take a look at salaries and wages and employee benefits, comprise about 60%. Purchase services about 34%. Keep in mind that we do hire instructors as independent contractors, and that's why that purchase services is at that 34% level, because we do hire, like I said, non-employees to do a lot of our work in our classrooms for community ed. So when you take a look at the fund balance, the projected fund balance, you can see that the ending fund balance is about 2.8 million, and as with the general fund and the food service fund, we have restrictions on what that money can be used for. And you can kind of see the designations of the various restricted fund balances there. I will point out that the designated for levy adjustment is our school age care. At one point in time, this is for services for our before and after school programming with students who have special needs for para support, health support, et cetera. And I think when Terry came in, we were levying too much. And so we were building up fund balance, and eventually it's kind of supposed to be a balanced. You're supposed to levy what you want to spend. And so if you under levy, they give you an adjustment so you can levy more. If you over levy, you get an adjustment, they take money away from you. And so I think over the course of time, we were levying $800,000 when we first got here, Terry and I, and we were only spending about $500,000. So we built up this extra money, and so now what's happened is they're taking it back over time. And so I think in another year, we'll probably be caught up. And she's done a nice job with monitoring that. And again, that $122,000, just keep in mind that that's money that is going to go away. That's part of the 2.8, but it's not really, because it's going to be paid back to our taxpayers in a levy reduction. When you look at community ed, the revenues, fund and expenditures and fund balance, and Terry's done a nice job. Again, we were kind of teammates here because she came into a similar situation with her budget as overall as what I did, and so I think we worked hand in hand. And at one point, I think the community ed fund was in the red; it was negative, and so she's done a nice job building that fund balance and then really expanding the programs, as you well know, whether it's pre-K or some of these things. Her staff, as Cheryl explained, I think they've done a nice job of stabilizing themselves financially and then providing exceptional programming at a higher level than when she came. Very similar, I think, to where we went with our overall general fund and our providing for students. So very quickly, again, we have the building construction fund is reappearing. Again, this fund is to use to account for the various construction, and as you see, Right now, we sold bonds, so we had revenues of about 61 million, and we'll have expenditures as we do the Castle and Richardson project. We're looking to do our first sale of the voter-approved bonds this fall. And so you're gonna see that there's gonna be a lot of activity in this fund. And again, revenues come from the sale of bonds and certificates of participation. Expenditures change due to costs associated with those construction projects in our facilities plan. So this will be one of the things we'll really keep you updated on, because again, we want to keep track of this and really monitor and move it forward. That, you know, obviously our stakeholders have strongly put $275 million, you know, in our hands to, you know, to provide for construction projects across the district. So next year, we're looking at interest revenue of about $500,000, and it may be more than that at least at this point. We're looking at total expenditures of about almost 26 million. This will be the finishing up of Castle and Richardson. So this does not include any, we'll have to do a budget revision, but this does not include any sales of additional bonds. This basically is accounting for the $61 million of bonds that we sold this past year in 18 and 19, okay? Debt service, again, the fund is used to pay off principal and interest incurred by the issuance of these bonds or about certificates of participation. Again, revenue comes from the local property taxpayers. And they're, again, they voted for this, and you'll see our debt service obviously is going to increase. So revenues and expenditures increase due to the costs associated with the phase 1 of the district's facilities plan. Keep in mind that the neat thing about this is, as we sell these bonds and everything, our pledge to the taxpayers is to keep, you know, taxes basically flat, and we're looking at over time probably about, you know, that $60 to an average per year to the average homeowner. So keep in mind, we will balance other things, you know, as we sell debt, et cetera. But next year, we're looking at about, roughly about $14 million in debt service payments. Again, trust funds, we're gonna be looking at a resolution. It's kind of, it's about GASB 84. Right now, we will make those adjustments as during the 1920 budget year. So right now, we do have trust funds, we have student activity accounts, et cetera. You'll see that through this Government Accounting Standards Board, they're gonna want us bringing these things into Fund 1. So we will make those adjustments by the start of school, but right now, they remain the same. So as you'll see, this fund will be revised as we add student activity accounts under school board control. We do about 1.4 million a year. This is our trust fund, Fund 9, and those funds will be incorporated into Fund 1. So we'll be doing those updates as we progress through the 1920 through budget revisions. One of the great things that HR has done is the self-insured health fund. You know, we've done a great job of maintaining the cost of our health care over time through this. And again, the purpose of this fund is to maintain and pay for bills, and pay for the clinic downstairs, et cetera, things that are associated with our health insurance program here. So next year, we're looking kind of like at a balanced budget at this time. Again, this is one of those things that we'll have to monitor and make updates as the year progresses. But right now, we're looking, you know, at revenue equaling expenditures, and we're projecting, at least at the end of this year, to hopefully end with about a $5.4 million fund balance. So that thing, the fund itself and the purpose of that has been, it's been great. So kudos to HR and Julie and her oversight of that. We spend a lot of time, Julie in particular and Keisha spend a lot of time working with the insurance committee, et cetera, to make that happen. Last but not least, our other post-employment benefits. We have a trust fund. You folks sold $30 million worth of bonds and issued bonds in 2008, 2009 to pay for our post-employment health care benefits and insurance benefits that we're contractually obligated to pay. Keep in mind that we have, over time, grandfathered those provisions out of our contracts, okay? So eventually, health insurance and some of those obligations will continue to decrease over time. But had we not sold bonds or do the annual pay-as-you-go levy, we would have to take those expenditures out of general fund. So this is a good thing for the education of our students. Again, right now, we're projecting expenditures out of that fund of about $2.2 million. When I first came here, that was over $3 million. So it continuously goes down. But right now, if we didn't have the trust fund, those dollars would be absorbed out of the general fund totally. So again, debt service, again, when we sold the bonds, the debt service for those bonds that were issued, about $2.2 million is what we levy, and those bonds will be up in about 10 years. And we do have a plan to make whole, so as soon as the fund runs out, pay-as-you-go dollars will kick in. So we do have an overall plan to pay it, or to transition over. So when you take a look at all of our funds, I know this has been I appreciate you hanging in there with me. Again, overall, we are a district that is anticipating about $204 million, almost $205 million worth of revenue in all of our funds, and expenditures of about $230 million. Again, much higher than revenues, expenditures about $25 million because of the construction we're doing. So as you can see, we're spending down some of those bond funds that we sold here for Castle and Richardson. So that's why the dramatic difference in revenues and expenditures here. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
Just two quick ones. So you talked about the dishwashing units, which I'm assuming we'll need to hire some staff, so they'll probably be local people. Are the staff fees figured into that budget?
Are the staff fees?
Like the employee
Oh,
fees to
yeah,
run them? Are
absolutely.
they? Okay.
Yeah.
And then my only other question is, if we adopt this and accept it, but we don't accept the lunch increase, will you just come back and just do a budget adjustment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to clarify. Good job, Randy.
Thank you.
So out of $230 million, my question, which will probably could wait until item number 5 on the extracurricular activities. We've tried so hard to figure out a way to not have to worry about balancing the books for those student extracurricular activities. And now, with the new accounting standards, they're going to force us to balance those. So are we going to be audited individually for those activity accounts like we were a few years ago?
And the reason this is a national-wide GASB, so they're looking at all schools. It's their way of putting more internal controls. Again, I'm not concerned about us because I think we do a great job, with doing that ourselves. But now it's going to force people, especially the smaller school districts, et cetera, to really, monitor that. And yes, so instead of doing a separate audit of student activities like we normally do, so we kind of keep that over there, they'll now be part of our general fund, audit, our overall audit. So it'll be interesting. So I don't think it'll change the way we do business. Only there'll be different account codes, just simply because I think Joe and Travis do a great job with student activities and training. So, but yeah, you're absolutely correct.
But starting next year, we're not going to be able to point the finger at somebody else and say, shame
Correct.
on you, you should have balanced your checkbook. It's gonna be us.
Yeah, it's come home to roost. But like I said, I think we do a good job. So, great question.
All right, Randy, there's just so much information and it's complicated, so I just appreciate the effort you made to make it clear and concise through that presentation. I think it was helpful for me. I'm going to read the resolution. Be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District 622 that the 2019-2020 preliminary budgets be approved as follows. General Fund, revenue $149,024,612. Expenditures $148,971,896. Fund 2 for Food Service Fund, revenue of $6,998,500. Expenditures of $6,896,232. Fund 4, Community Education Fund, revenue of $9,705,518. and expenditures of $10,008,275. Fund 6, Building Construction Fund, revenue of $500,000, expenditures of $25,765,000. Fund 7, Debt Service Fund, revenue of $14,466,620. Expenditures of $13,943,319. Fund 9, Trust and Agency Fund, revenues of $1,400,000, expenditures of $1,400,000. Fund 20, Self-Insured Health Fund, revenues of $18,947,600, and expenditures of $18,947,600. Fund 45, OPEB Trust Fund, revenue of $1,150,000, expenditures of $2,288,000. Fund 47, OPEB Debt Service Fund, revenue of $2,275,928, and expenditures of $2,263,595, for a grand total of all funds of $204,468,778, and expenditures of $230,483,917. And with that, I need a motion and a second for approval. Moved by Steve. I should say, moved by Hunt, second by Anderson. All in favor say aye. Aye. And all opposed say nay. Okay, the budget is approved. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
Okay, and then the nutrition services price increase.
Yes, the actual calculator came out late this year, so that's why the delay. Normally, we have the, if we're going to have an increase, we have that usually, in April or May, but MDE didn't get the calculator out till, after our May meeting. So Paul and I discussed this, as you remember. They have a calculator that basically tells you how much you should charge for your full paid meals, so that what they don't want to have happen is they don't want to have the full paid, or the paid meals subsidized by the free and reduced meals. And so there's a calculator, and I've included that partial calculator for your observance there. So the actual, because we have what's called a blended rate, our elementary rate is different from our secondary rate. What the calculator is basically showing us is that we're supposed to have close to a 10-cent increase, but because we have a blended rate, the 5-cent increase, at least this year, is doable, and we fall and meet the guidelines, and that's what Paula and I are recommending. We are recommending a 10-cent increase in breakfasts, and also an increase in adult meal prices. So with that, I'll entertain any questions. $0.05 for lunch, 10 cents for breakfast. Yep. Oh, and we didn't have a meal increase last year, so it was 2 years ago since our last increase in meal prices.
Okay. I'm going to read the resolution. Be resolved by the School Board of Independent School District number 622 that the following meal prices become effective September 2019. Elementary lunch, $2.80. Secondary lunch, $3. Adult lunch, $4.10. Milk, 40 cents. Elementary breakfast, $1.80. Secondary breakfast, $1.80. Adult breakfast, $2. I need a motion, a second. Moved by Ogier. Second by Navy. All in favor say aye. Aye. And all opposed say nay. Okay, and we have approval for that increase. Next, is it you again, Randy?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. 2018-2019 budget revisions for construction fund.
Actually, I think is that what it was? Oh, yeah, that's okay. Go ahead. Correct.
Resolution regarding board control of extracurricular activities.
So this is what Steve referred to as pulling in the student activity funds and trust funds into the general fund, Fund 1. It is something we have to do, we're required to do. We just now got some guidance from MDE. So this Governmental Accounting Standards Board proclamation just came out not too long ago. It was at our MASBO meeting, actually, when we got the information, so it was the beginning of May. And so what's happening here is we're kind of, we're flying the plane while we're building it, so to speak. So we just got the guidance, and we'll be able to implement it, and it won't, it really won't impact our day-to-day business, except for overall, put more internal controls into the process. Like I said, it won't really affect us, because I think we do a great job. But it'll just affect account codes, et cetera. So, and fund balance, again, we'll have to maintain a fund balance, restricted fund balance amount for those amounts. So with that, I'll entertain some questions, if you have any.
Okay. Whereas Minnesota Session Laws 2019 First Special Session, is it Chapter 11? Article 1, Section 5, will require changes in the accounting for student activity funds, and school boards must take charge of and control all student activities of the public schools in the district, and that all money received or expended for extracurricular activities shall be recorded in the same manner as other revenues and expenditures of the district. Therefore, be it resolved that the School Board of North St. Paul Maplewood Oakdale Schools Independent School District number 622 directs the district's administration to implement the requirements of Minnesota Session Laws 2019 First Special Section, Chapter 11, Article 1, Section 5. So we need a motion and a second for approval. Moved by Navy. Second by Jarman. All in favor say aye. Aye. And all opposed say nay. So that is also approved.
Thank you.
Randy? And the last one, Randy, is 2018-2019 budget revision for construction fund.
Yes, I kind of mentioned at the last work session, we were trying to get our hands around everything and where we're at. Again, this was because we've never used the construction budget for quite a while. And so now we wanted to kind of get our hands around all of our expenditures, et cetera. And then so we could project for next year. And if you remember at the last work session, I didn't have a Fund 6 budget for next year, but you had that now. Just keep in mind that we've made some adjustments, and we're projecting the revenues because of our bond sales and interest revenue for 18-19 to land at about the $61,300,000 level, with expenditures of about $17,300,000. That expenditure of 17.3 recommends about 40% of our expenditures incurred in the Castle Richardson project. So as you well know, those projects will continue up through December and will into next year. So most of the construction is being done now after school's out. So again, I think we projected about $25 million for expenditures next year for the Castle and Richardson project. So that would complete those projects. So with that, I'll entertain any questions.
So if we have unexpected cost overruns of significant amounts, we'd have two choices really. One would be to change our future plans in phase 2 or phase 3 of our projects, or sell more bonds until we reach that magic number that we promised the taxpayers.
Yeah, I think you have to live within your means and hopefully, get in a good bidding climate. But what we've done, for the Castle and Richardson, and actually each project that we go into will have a contingency fund for unexpected things that come up. And so usually that contingency is about 5 to 10% of our project cost. And so right now, both Richardson and Castle have over $1 million of contingency. So as we find something unexpected, you know, behind the wall, or we want to add something special, we do have that contingency, which is planned. Of course, we hope not to spend those dollars, but, you know, it does happen.
So is it your thinking that those will be brought to us each time as a change in a forecast or a change in actual expenditures, or what are you thinking with the construction fund?
So overall, yeah, we'll put out forth a budget, and we're going to try to live within our means. And so in those budgets will be a contingency fund for unexpected types of things. So you will approve an overall budget like you did for Castle and Richardson, and then that will have, like I said, dollars that we have available for things that occur, whether it's more asbestos abatement, or whether we want to change out lockers. Instead of having lockers, we want to have cubbies, and those were changes that we did for Castle and Richardson. We wanted to have actual cubbies in the classroom, because that's, you know, what everybody had suggested. So that's kind of how we go about doing it. Again, we're just working with our leaders to hopefully live within our means. Lisa's done a great job. Jenna has done a great job. Troy. So we've got so big of a budget, so many square feet, and so in the planning stage, we hopefully to have that taken care of, you know, before we go out to bid. And hopefully the bidding climate will be a good one. And then we will also have contingency in there for unexpected things or changes in the, you know, footprint of the building. So
I have a more than full confidence in the cabinet and your leadership in making sure that
Thanks.
the money's spent
Yeah.
appropriately. My question is, in the work of the board, there'll be selling the bonds, and some of the expenditures, approving some of the bids would come to us just because of the size of the
Yes.
dollars involved. And then there's those pieces within that you have within your purview to decide, yes, we'll spend that, or no, we won't spend that. And so I'm just kind of curious, in building this construction fund project, at what point will you bring stuff to us, or have you thought it through that far yet, in
So-
terms of what the board's
Absolutely.
response
So
will be?
we've added additional, you know, work sessions, and so remember we involved you and Castle and Richardson. Remember we did an overall review and comment that had to get approved by MDE, and then we will bring to you. We do have budgets according to that review and comment, of which we want to live within, and then as we have, as the plans for John Glenn, Skyview, that's the next phase, and Carver, thank you. That was the one I was forgetting. I always want to say Castle again. We will bring those to you to kind of show you what the staff has decided and so forth. But right now, we have estimated the costs that we think at this point in time, and we have inflation built in there. And so like when we're talking about John Glenn, we have a set footprint and a set budget that we want to live within. So right now, that's what we're discussing with their staff, the principals, et cetera. What does this look like for teaching space? So, yeah.
And Jenna's role in this whole construction project will be to create and funnel engagement opportunities for changes to spending or changes to architectural plans, which will then come back to us for
Yep.
for some sort of review?
She will be instrumental in helping programming meet the needs of the space and working with the educational leaders to make that happen. She's already been through it, and so she's already been a help. Today, I know she met with Lisa and Jill, the principal at John Glenn, because there was some concerns about if there was enough, you know, room at John Glenn, and so she's done a tremendous job. So she'll be involved with us, you know, every step of the way. But anywhere from technology, FF&E, to, you know, helping set up meetings with staff and you know, reporting out. So yeah, looking forward to having her on board, and she's already hit the ground running. So.
Well, the more
yeah.
questions I have, the more
Yep.
excited I am about about the changes we're going to create for the district.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to read the resolution. This one's shorter.
That
Here
one's
is-
mine.
Yeah. Be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District Number 622 that the 2018-2019 district construction budget be revised as presented. I need a motion and a second. Moved by Hunt.
Second.
Second by Livingston. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed say nay. So that carries as well. Thanks, Randy.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure this past year and appreciate your patience tonight.
Thank
Thanks.
you. All right. Okay, the last thing we have on action items is setting our school board meetings for the 2019-2020 school year. So we have a proposed calendar. Do we have any discussion before I read the resolution? Okay, then I will read it. Be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District 622 that pursuant to Policy 205, school board business meeting dates will be as follows. July 23rd, 2019, August 20th, September 24th, October 22nd, November 19th, December 17th, January 21st, 2020, February 18th, March 24th, April 28th, May 19th, and June 23rd. And that the school board work study session meeting dates will be as follows. August 6, 2019, October 8th, November 12th, December 3rd, January 14th, 2020, March 17th, April 7th, June 9th. And that the school board retreat meeting date will be as follows. February 22nd, 2020. And that the regular meeting place for school board business meetings shall be in the boardroom in the District Education Center at 6 p.m. with the exception of July 23rd, 2019 meeting, which will be held at 4:30 p.m. or unless otherwise specified. And that the regular time for the school board work study sessions will be at 4:30 p.m. and the meeting place will be posted. And that the meeting place and time for the school board retreat shall be in the District Education Center from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. So I need a motion and a second for approval.
So moved.
Moved by OJ. Second by Navy. All in favor say aye. Aye. And all opposed say nay. So we have our 2019-2020 school board calendar. Okay, next on the agenda we have board communications. Can we start with you, Teresa?
This was fascinating, this thing that Cheryl put out about the little trivia, and I thought it'd be kind of cool if all the departments did it for Welcome Back, and had a little contest going or something. I just think it was, I thought it was fascinating, but I thought it would be a great way of talking about, maybe they do it for each of their buildings or something as part of that, but did you know? I thought it was very interesting. I know that wasn't very communicative, but if you haven't been by the two schools, I hope somebody's chronologically taking photos of them, because it's hard to even envision what Richardson even looked like with all those walls up now, or what Castle. So I think that's fascinating. But Troy, great job tonight, and that of the rest of the cabinet.
So last week I got to take a tour of the Young Scholars Summer Camp hosted by Skyview. It was the 17th through the 21st. They had breakfast and lunch and busing provided for the students. The theme this year was transportation, so they got to make and test out their own paper airplanes. They were fancy airplanes. They built and raced Lego cars. They designed and weaved their own magic carpets, which I was quite impressed by, just the level of detail. And one of the Young Scholar teachers, Josh Gramland, who's an art teacher at Tartan High School, he saved the district a lot of money because he made the looms, I think they're called, himself. He made hundreds of them with a special type of cardboard, and he hand-cut slits on each one. So I just would like to give him a shout-out for the work that he did on that. They also had a field trip, which sounded really fun. They went to Osceola, Wisconsin, and they got to go on a train ride for an hour and a half, which my daughter loved that experience. And I think the thing that really struck me the most was that each classroom had a student volunteer from Tartan High School. They were avid students, and a lot of them had been in the Young Scholars Summer Program. And the person who led the tour told me that they had no problem getting volunteers to sign up. And I think that says a lot about our high school kids, how community-minded they are, and how much they appreciate education. And so it was really touching for me.
Well, congratulations to all of our graduates. I was really sorry to miss the North High graduation. I presume it was wonderful. Was it? Oh, good. Tartan graduation went swimmingly. So, yeah, it's just probably the most satisfying thing we do as board members is seeing all those wonderful young faces. The 916 board had a retreat last week. I attended that, and the one topic was equity, and I'm very impressed with Connie Hayes, the superintendent, and her dedication to equity and really making changes with staff and professional development. So that's all.
I just want to talk about ducks for a second. Over at Carver, they have a little courtyard, and every year a duck comes over there and nests. And the ducklings just hatched over there. And a lot of the staff over at Carver kind of keep an eye on it, and it's kind of I don't know, it's a site pride kind of thing. It gets everybody pumped up. And just kind of something they can come to work and be excited to get up and go to their jobs every day, and that's kind of infectious for the kids as well. But then I found out that there's also a duck nesting at the Skyview, and there's one at Castle now too.
As a matter of fact, because of law and everything, it's right by the front door, and so in all the construction, we're waiting for the ducklings to hatch and the mama to go. So we've actually had to work around this nest. So it's yeah, and I have a picture of it. So it's been very, very interesting and very prideful actually. And so we've worked around it. So as of Monday, the ducklings haven't hatched, but you can go up there and you can kind of see mama, sitting on her nest. So yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I was on the roof of Cowern during Carnival putting up a sign, and a mom duck flew off and almost knocked me off the roof. And I looked down where I was stepping, and there was a nest behind me with eggs in it. So, yeah, kind of like Randy was saying, it's pretty interesting, and it gets the staff pretty energized. The staff at Carver made this shirt just because they're into it. But it sounds like it's kind of all over the district, so I don't know. I thought I'd share that story. So thanks for listening.
All right, thanks, Ben. Okay, we have future board meeting dates of July 23rd, 2019 for the business meeting at 4:30 in the boardroom. We also have July 23rd, 2019, the closed session immediately following the adjournment of the July 23rd business meeting in room 202. And with that, I'd like a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Anderson, second by Livingston. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed say nay. Meeting's adjourned. Thanks, you guys.